our first new feature. It's a brand new module that we're calling reconciliation. And the background, it came about as some of our sales engineers were demoing automated PO matching to a group in our conference room, and one of the participants asked us if we could match other types of documents. And I'm thinking, well, that's not really how it was designed, but we realized that we probably could. So reconciliation, it utilizes some of that same logic in PO matching, but it allows you to match line item data on a document with either data from another document or data from another system, another database like an ERP. So I'm going to walk you through a use case. This is actually the use case that was the genesis for this new module, and then we'll talk about some other ways you might apply it throughout your company. So in this scenario, we're dealing with, they're a software reseller that receives individual customer orders. They're labeled AR invoices, but they're like customer orders, and they get them throughout the month as the orders come in. And then at the end of the month, they receive a monthly statement, and they have to go through this reconciliation process. And so this is what it looks like in DocLink. The customer orders, they index them into DocLink as they're received, throughout the month. Then when they get that monthly statement, they index that into DocLink as well. And that's kind of the trigger for them to move all of those customer orders to a workflow status that's going to fire off the reconciliation process, that automated process. So now reconciliation is doing its thing. It's moving through each of those customer orders, kind of analyzing it. And the question it's kind of trying to solve is, does the information on that customer order reconcile with what the line for that order on the monthly statement? And if it does, then all that customer order is moved to a workflow status, and basically it's telling DocLink, we're ready to export that customer data, that customer order right to the ERP for handling. Now, if it doesn't reconcile, if there is an issue, then it's presented to the user, and the user takes some action to fix it, and then it's moved to that workflow status where it says it's ready for export. So all of this is really behind the scenes. It's an automated process. The only time the user gets involved, again, is when there's a discrepancy. And so let's walk through what that looks like. We created some sample documents just to help kind of visualize the process. This is a monthly statement, includes lines for, again, each of the customer orders for that month. And you can see that we've indexed that document with all that line item data. The line item data is what DocLink is going to use for the reconciliation process. And this is a sample, again, customer order. And in this case, Shepherd Motorworks placed an order and it was indexed into DocLink. Again, the user is only seeing this because there's an issue. And just like with automated PO matching that we went through a year or so ago with you, all of the reconciliation exceptions are shown at the top of the viewer window. So in this case, we can see that it was a linking error. The data on the customer order doesn't exactly match the data that was expected on the monthly statement, so it couldn't find the right line to link with. So if I press this link button right here, then the dialog is going to come up and I can take care of the issue. So this is the dialog for a linking error. This is what the user sees. At the top are the values. These are the property values that DocLink pulled from the customer order. And below, this is a possible match from the monthly statement. But when we configured reconciliation for this process, it was configured to link when the invoice number matched exactly. And you can see here that the invoice number, here's the invoice number from the order, but the invoice number from the statement. And so in this case, probably OCR or the user didn't quite get the right information. And so because this is editable, I could just type in the right invoice number. I could select this reconciliation line and then press OK, and it's going to automatically link those together. So that's, an easy way to take care of that linking error. And in this customer order, we've got a different kind of issue. It's displayed here. It's a validation exception. So in this case, reconciliation was able to link the customer order to a line on the monthly statement, but it failed at validation. So in this case, I'll just press that validate button, and a different dialog appears. And this one has a little bit more going on. It tells me, here's the validation rule that failed. We configured this validation rule in DocLink, and it failed because the invoice amount, in this case, we said that the amount on the customer order should be within $2 of the amount on the statement. You could configure it for a percentage as well, but it fell outside the variance. You can see it was a variance of $3.05 instead of $2. And so, you've got some options. You could either, if it was an OCR issue, again, similarly, I could fix it here. I could fix that value that we pulled from the invoice and just press the update option here. If there really was an issue with the customer order, maybe we need to request a new customer order because it just needs to be resubmitted. And in that case, I can select reject, and it's going to go to a specific workflow status where someone can request that new order and replace it when it comes in. If maybe actually for some reason we linked with the wrong line, perhaps maybe this information was wrong, and so we need to unlink it and put it back through the process again, we could do that. Or we could say, maybe yes, this is our, variance rule, our tolerance. We're only tolerating a variance of $2, but in this case, I understand why it's that way. I want to override that validation and enter a comment in here, and then pass it on for export. So you have those options. They're all right here, clear for the user. They can take the necessary action and just then press OK. So again, the user is only dealing with the exceptions. And so the challenge I have for you is to think about how you might use reconciliation within your organization. Of course, one example, it's, comparing invoices or orders with that monthly statement. That's a real good scenario. Another example might be if you receive EFT remittances and you need to reconcile them with your open AR invoices. That's an example that one customer brought to us when we were talking through some possible scenarios. Maybe you need to make sure that some of your AP invoices actually reconcile with contracts, maybe for recurring services. And so there's a reconciliation process or a matching process that you go through that you'd like to automate. You may have recurring AP invoices that perhaps you need to compare with invoices that have already been received for the month, because you want to flag any that might be missing. Maybe you get, several of them each month, but you want to make sure that you've got them all accounted for. And of course, another one that, comes to mind is the reconciliation of payments with the bank statement. But I would challenge you to also think outside the box, right? Because reconciliation, it doesn't have to be limited to financial scenarios, not just AP or AR. Our marketing team, we were going over what this, reconciliation module is all about, and they came up with their own scenario, something that they wanted to use internally, right? When we go to events or we go to shows and we're meeting all these people who are interested in DocLink, they come back with a list of contacts. There can be a lot of names there that attended the event, and we need to get them more information. But reconciliation could be used to compare that list of new contacts with our current contact list in CRM. So with reconciliation, they would automatically know which one of those contacts need to get entered into the system, right? And so reconciliation could help them out, because that's a big process that takes several people to do that. So think outside the box of ways that you might use this new module. Again, it's a new module, and the prerequisites for it are having workflow and data manager. Those are the two kind of bits of DocLink that you would need to have in order to implement reconciliation. And this was a quote from our pilot program. They said in their case, this automated process is saving them a real significant amount of time each month. In their case, because they're processing, again, they're the ones that were doing the customer orders, and because of the volume of orders that they process every month, they thought they're saving about 80 hours. And because I think this last month they said there were 3 or 4 orders that were the only ones that they kind of had to work through, because all the other ones were correct. And so they didn't have to spend any time on those other orders, just the ones that were exceptions. So again, the people that we've talked to have been very excited, anxious to see that get this functionality. So think about areas in your company where this might be helpful. And we've got several projects on our roadmap, but 2 of them are actually being prototyped right now as we speak. So I wanted to give you some insight. There are 2 big roadmap themes for us right now. First of all, bringing more AI into DocLink, and secondly, looking for ways that AI can help you do your work, faster, better, and cheaper. One of the most obvious ways AI can provide value to the DocLink user base is the automated extraction of data from your documents. We know that, again, it's all about the data, and data extraction is the first step. So those of you that are using Smart Capture today, you're probably already aware that it's powered by AI. There are no templates, and it learns as your users interact with it. But now that we've kind of talked about some of those different types of AI, it may be interesting to know that Smart Capture uses not only machine learning, but also those deep learning algorithms. It's using neural networks inspired by, again, that structure of the human brain. And that AI is available to you today right within Smart Capture. But again, we're working right now to bring even more AI inside DocLink. So while Smart Capture is using machine learning and deep learning algorithms to extract data, to automate that process, we're working on a new offering right now, and it pairs machine learning with generative AI. So conceptually, it looks something like this. The first step is simply to get your documents into DocLink. You can use whatever tools you want. You could automate it using Import Manager. You can drag and drop them into DocLink. We just need to assign those documents to a top-level folder and a document type. And then we're going to send them off to workflow automatically. And that triggers this new DocLink index agent. That's what we're calling it. It's index agent, and it takes over the process. You can see here it's using machine learning the first step is to extract all of the data from the document. And then the next step is to pass that data along with some pre-configured prompts. And then we're using generative AI to sort through the document data to find those requested values. And that looks pretty simple, but there's really a lot of things happening here behind the scenes. First of all, we're providing a prompt library that uses your document type config that you already have set up to automatically generate prompts to find the property values within the document text. We're also going to provide the ability to generate your own prompts for specific documents. Maybe when we were, some of our testing, we had some of our own invoices from Microsoft, and they're laid out a little bit differently. And we realized that those Microsoft invoices, let's just look at the first page. The rest of it is stuff we don't care about. So you could write a prompt that says if the vendor is Microsoft, disregard all the remaining pages, just process the first page. Then we'll give you the ability to test and refine those prompts to evaluate them based on the results. We'll give you some results back. If you process the same set of documents, we can compare and show you is one better than the other. So you can continue to refine those prompts. And finally, we'll give you the ability to identify some validation rules. How will we know if this index agent was successful? So it may be if you were doing customer orders, it may be the validation will be here, the index agent was able to capture this customer name off of the document. Were we able to resolve that with the customer ID, a customer name and ID in your customer cache table? The same thing for vendor names off of an invoice, those kinds of transactional documents. You may need to, maybe a rule would be if it's this type of document and you don't find these 3 properties, then it doesn't pass the validation. Someone needs to take a further look. Or maybe if you're processing a document with header, footer, and line item detail, maybe you want to make sure that the sum of those extended amounts on the lines, that the sum of those lines falls within a tolerance range of the total amount on the document. So we'll use these validations to then determine whether the index agent successfully indexed the document or someone needs to take another look. So again, at a high level, this DocLink index agent can be used to index any type of document. It's using generative AI instead of machine learning and deep learning to find the property values. And you'll be able to fine-tune your prompts based on more specifics about the document, either the document type or maybe a specific property value that's on the document. So this is in development right now. We've been encouraged by the results from our early prototypes, but more to come, certainly more testing and development to come. But we're very excited about providing you an additional option for indexing your documents. So in addition to the DocLink index agent, our roadmap goes beyond just data extraction, and we're focusing on a couple of other areas. One area is a conversational interface to DocLink, and as well as agents that can provide understanding and take actions on your behalf. So one of the first AI projects on the roadmap is a natural language front end for document search. So instead of having to select a company and your document types and entering in specific pieces of criteria for your search, what about just telling DocLink what you're looking for using your natural language? And not even having to type it in, but giving DocLink access to your microphone so you can just tell DocLink what you're looking for. So after getting that necessary information from you, it may have to ask you, hey, what company you're looking at, or do you want to look at, ask you for a little more information. But once the agent has that, then it would create the SQL query and then display the results set in the search results window. So certainly making it way easier for those people that don't use DocLink all the time, right? Making it easier for them to find what they're looking for. Another project, it's a framework for document agents that can do things like summarizing documents. One scenario that when our sales team was talking to prospects, it was really about identifying data that's missing from the documents. And in this case, customers send in emails for, I want to order this, but maybe it's not really a purchase order and it's missing some data. And so their users are spending time kind of going through that and writing emails back and saying, please resubmit with all the data. But if DocLink, if we know what's supposed to be on that order, then take a look at it, identify what's missing, and automatically generate an email that can go to that customer asking them for that missing data without you having to take any action. Or maybe it is discovering anomalies, looking at documents over the last 6 months to determine, from one customer or one business partner to discover anomalies there. So the agent would either recommend actions or take actions on your behalf. Lots of different use cases to explore there, but we want to lay that framework. And finally, a DocLink assistant that would provide that kind of more like a chatbot interface for user and administrator help, utilizing our own Beyond Search platform. It's a BL product called Beyond Search. And so we would upload into Beyond Search all of our documentation, all of our FAQs and case notes, that kind of a thing. And then the user, especially I think this is good for new users that may not know kind of where to find the answer or what that module is called or how they should refer to it, to try and find those answers. But if they're new to the product, just typing in a question and having our Beyond Search platform be able to synthesize and provide relevant responses and give them those answers, right? So these are the AI projects that we've prioritized and placed on the roadmap. Obviously, if there's projects that are things that you've thought of that you'd like to use AI for within DocLink, let us know. That's something we would love to hear, your ideas for improving DocLink. But I wanted to mention also that we're working on a new tool for using another application's REST API to connect with DocLink, right? Either to consume or export data. We have our own API, but sometimes you want to use someone else's API to either send them data or to consume data from that application. While this isn't an AI tool, it is something that we're working on right now. And the 3 prototypes that we've done have actually been built with AI tools. So we've been refining the design and the features up front before the dev team actually writes the code and delivers the product. So I just wanted to say that within our own processes internally, we found it to be really helpful to speed up that research, that experimentation, the prototyping phase by using AI tools. So to summarize, as we work to bring more AI inside DocLink, we're focusing on these areas: intelligent data extraction, making it smarter, and making it cost-effective to capture that data automatically. Working to bring agents into DocLink that can provide insights and either recommend or take actions for you, to always looking for ways to give you some of your time back each day to do more, maybe more interesting or productive work. And also making it even easier to use DocLink by providing a conversational interface.